Hi, I'm Simon Briskman. I'm a partner at Field Fisher Waterhouse, and we're one of the UK's largest outsourcing legal firms.
Great, hi Simon. So we've had a few different sessions this morning featuring analysts and an interactive session with the delegates. So what are your general observations so far at the EOA conference?
Oh, it's been a great session. I mean, fantastic to see people here from across Europe and in fact across the globe. Great to hear about how China is kickstarting its outsourcing endeavours. We can see some real growth there over the next few years, and we were hearing about the growth story there. But also really interesting to find out what's concerning delegates at the moment, the credit crunch situation, and big projects really still taking off. Perhaps a slight change in the market situation we're finding with shorter term contracts, but still some of the large deals going down. So very interesting, and a fantastic mix of people here today.
Okay, great. I think one of the really the standout points from earlier was that there seemed to be very little concern about the macroeconomic situation. I think certainly there was about 3/4 or 2/3 of the audience said they've seen no effect of the credit crunch on their company, and then it was almost similar numbers when we looked at perceptions as well. So it really seemed as if people were not too concerned.
Well, I think that's right in a sense. At the moment, I can't see any downing of tools or stopping of projects because of the credit crunch, but I can see people pausing for thought. So I think while your questions about whether there was an actual immediate effect showed that people weren't concerned, some of your more probing questions about whether it might affect people in the long run elicited a slightly different response. And the interesting thing will be to see what happens in the long term. Right now we're all pausing and trying to assess what the credit crunch will do, but if it really does freeze capital, that's going to affect transformational outsourcing. And while we're in a hiatus and people can't tell whether we might spin off towards recession or not, that makes people pause, because if they were going to do significant restructurings, perhaps having to downsize, for instance, they'd need to think about doing that before they get into a fixed 5 or 10 year deal on an outsourcing. So I think we're seeing a little bit of pausing for thought, and I suspect that's going to work its way out in the next few months and not affect the market greatly, but that's where the concerns might be at the moment.
Okay, great. And I mean, for yourself and your company, have you seen any specific trends around what's going on in Europe recently?
Well, our European practice is actually pretty buoyant, both because we have a very large public sector contingent, but also we act for a mix of customers and suppliers on the private sector side, and I think on both those it's pretty buoyant. I do see these pauses for thought. I've seen one large project which has stopped at an early stage at the moment while the company's trying to reassess. I'm seeing some projects take a little bit longer than I might have thought otherwise getting to fruition, but this doesn't seem to be affecting our overall deal levels at all.